So we like to start the session by paying our obeisances to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is the founder Acharya of ISKCON. And we'll also pay our obeisances and seek blessings from our initiating spiritual master, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, and also our instructing spiritual master, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. So we are on chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. The title is Contents of the Gita Summarized. And there are 72 verses, and today we will be, covering the verse from 4 to 10. We have already covered first 3 verses in the last section, and these are the subsequent verses, right? And their titles. Okay, so the so-called title of this section, the first 10 verses, basically is Arjuna's Indecision and Accepting Krishna as Guru. So in this section, we will see that Arjuna is confused, really. In verse number 2 and 3, we saw that Krishna basically gave a pep talk to Arjuna, just to encourage him to fight, right? That you should fight. It is, how you are speaking such a language which is, like an unaryan, like an uncivilized person, like the person who doesn't know, you know, the duty, the responsibility, and a kshatriya. You don't know the responsibility and duties of a kshatriya, and then it will. If you do this anaryam ashatriya, then it will lead to asargam, right? It will not lead you to heavenly planets, right? And then Arjun is now going to counter this. What kind of a man is this if he counterattacks his, elders, his spiritual master, and all, right? So Arjuna is going to put forward this reasoning, and he then end up saying that it is better to live by begging than to kill, our spiritual masters, our relatives, and all, right? So we'll see this. So someone would like to recite this? Anyone can recite, like whatever it may take.
I'll try,
Yeah,
Sumit.
thank you, Dipesh. Yeah.
Arjuna Uvacha Katham Bhismam Aham Sankhye Dronam Cha Madhusudana Isubhi Pratyotsayami Pujarhava Arisudhana.
Very good. Thank you very much, Dipesh. Thank you. So someone will read the English translation, the words.
Yeah, I'll do.
Yeah, please.
Arjuna said, "O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counterattack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona who are worthy of my worship?"
Right. So here, basically, what we just discussed, that Arjuna is putting forward Katham Bhishma Aham Sanke Dronam Cha Madhusudana, that how can I kill or counterattack with arrows people like Bhishma and Dronacharya, right? They are worthy of my worship, right? Even verbally, we should not counterattack our superiors, our seniors, right? Elderly people. And here we are in a battlefield, where we have to, shoot arrows on them. So it's like so so bad. Why? Oh, killer of enemies, Arisudana, right? Here, uh, Arjuna is saying Madhusudana. Madhusudana is one who killed demon Madhu, and also Arisudana. Arisudana means someone who killed enemies. So Krishna had killed many enemies, right? Someone will like to share if they know the names of demons Krishna killed while he was in Vrindavan. Someone would like to name few of them?
Dhenukasur.
Yes, Dhenukasur. In which form was Dhenukasur?
I think he was in like a buffalo.
Dhenukasur he killed in Talwan forest. You know, they were in the form of the donkeys, right? Yeah. And can you please name others, like if
Putana
Putna, right?
and
Yes,
Kamsha in Madhura.
Kamsa in Mathura, right? Very good. Someone else will like to share if they know the names of demons killed by Krishna?
Kamsa Chanura.
Yes, Chanura Mustika he killed in Mathura.
Yeah.
Yes, while in the wrestling match. Yes. I see Anvi is trying to unmute. Anvi, you like to share names of demons killed by Krishna in Vrindavan, like Putna, Trinavarta, Bakasura.
Trinavarta.
Yes, Aristasur, right? Bakasur, uh, Dhenukasur already Shanmugi said, right? Shaktasur, right? Uh, many demons. It is said actually every day he used to kill one or two demons. Only few of them are mentioned in Bhagavatam, right? So that is why here Arjuna is saying killer of enemies, and he's trying to say that, oh Krishna, you are asking me to kill Drona, Charya, and Bhishma. O killer of enemies, will you ever attempt to kill Sandeepni Muni or people like Ugrasen, right? So, he's trying to sort of discuss and debate with Krishna, you know. And then in the subsequent verse, uh, Arjuna further highlights, what he thinks about his duty. Someone will like to read this?
I will try some.
Yes, please.
Krishna. Guru Nahatva hi mahanubhavan Sriyo bhoktam bhaikshamapih loke Hattvadha kamamstu guru nihaiva Bhunjiya bhogan rudhira pradigdhan.
Right. Thank you. Someone will like to read the translation?
It would to live in this world by beginning than to live at the cost of their lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even through desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy would be tainted with blood.
Very good. So who was that? Rajesh ji, who is that?
My daughter, Saranya.
Sharanya, your daughter. Very good. Sharanya is a very good name. And today we are actually going to talk about Sharanya in verse number 2.7. So yeah, thank you. Thank you. So yes. So here Arjuna is further um highlighting that he says that it is better to live in this world by begging. Huh? The word bhiksham, appeal, okay. Better to live by begging than to live after killing our superiors, our teachers, right? So basically, uh, as I last time Harshad asked this question that what happened in Hastinapur when Draupadi was being disrobed, right? So basically we see that Bhishma and Drona, they were siding with Adharma, right? Uh, all through the course of their life, uh, all through the course of their life, Pandavas had tolerated many injustice. There were many attempts to their lives. There were many attempts to everything. Like we discussed, six things to their property, right? Um, uh, Draupadi was being insulted, right? They were they were attacked many times, right? So we see that they have suffered a lot, and Duryodhana was not the ideal king from the perspective of being the senior most, and from from qualification perspective, right? Now if people like Dronacharya and Bhishma, they are siding adharma, what should be done, right, according to the uh, scriptural codes. Now in Bhagavatam there is a story of Bali Maharaj and Vamanadev. So when Vamanadeva came, uh, Bali Maharaj is priest, and Guru Shukracharya said that don't trust this person. You know, he is come in disguise. He is Vishnu. But Bali Maharaj rejected the advice of his Guru. Why? Because he said that, you know, if Vishnu has come, then I should obey what he is requesting, right? And so he went forward and rejected his guru. So if your spiritual master, if your guru is not following the codes of scriptures, then he is fit to be abandoned, right? And so uh, Bhishma and Drona, they obliged to take side. They were obliged to take side of Duryodhana because of his financial assistance and because of some, karma khandic obligations, right? Um, Although they knew it very well, right, that Duryodhana is evil-minded, he's incorrect, he's wrong, and Pandavas, they are pious. But then also they sided, right, the impious person. And under these circumstances, basically they have lost the respect to be a teacher, to be someone, who should gain that respect. But Arjun, nevertheless, even knowing all these things, he said that I don't want to kill them. I cannot enjoy anything, any material profits after killing them, because everything will be tainted with blood, right? So we see here heart of Arjuna, right? He had so much compassion, so much respect, even though the scriptural codes allowed him to do something, he would he was reflecting that compassion, right? So although he was a soft-hearted person, right, we discussed that a lot, but his compassion was not rightly placed, right? Which is why, you know, Krishna will then take lead and will explain him furthermore. So in the next verse, someone will like to read this verse.
I can read.
Yeah,
Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to leave. Yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield.
right. So here Arjuna is again saying that he's basically showing his confusion, his indecision. He's confused. What should I do? Right? Uh, whether should I conquer them, or whether should I let them conquer me? Right? And if we kill sons of Dhritarashtra, then how can we live? Right? Here we contrast his mindset with mindset of Duryodhan, who from very childhood wanted to kill the Pandavas, right? So this contrasts very much, right? And not only was Arjun a great devotee, right, but he was highly enlightened. he had control over his senses and mind, right? He was born in the family of Kshatriyas, right? Kings. But then what is he saying? That it is better to live by begging. Now, this shows that how detached was he, you know. So, he was truly virtuous, as these qualities combined with his faith in the words of Krishna indicate, right? uh, and which together shows us that actually he is fit for liberation. He's fit to go back home, back to Godhead, right? And here, what we see, that Arjuna had two options. Either he wins, right? He wins, he will rule the earth. If he loses, he will go to the heavenly planets. But in both the situation, you know it was basically a lose-lose situation for him. Both ways, you know he would lose. He will not be happy. So basically, it seems that he's frozen by indecision, right? And which is why now he will turn towards Krishna. He's totally confused, right? So let's see, you know so how has this doubt and confusion come up? So in 2.4 he says, how can I counterattack in battlefield Bhishma Drona, right, who are worthy of my worship? And then he says that better to live by begging, right, than to kill these great personalities. And then he's confused, right? And then I don't know which is better, to be conquered or to conquer them, right? So Arjuna is totally confused. uh, should I dutifully fight and risk unnecessary violence, or should I refrain and live by begging, which shows the sign of detachment, right? And victory is also but defeat, as we cannot live happily after killing our relatives and family members, right? So in these verses, we see that Arjuna is basically confused. He doesn't know what he should do, and thereafter he takes the call, right? And here we go to the next verse. Someone will like to recite. This is very important verse.
I will recite, Srimanji.
Okay, please. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेतः यत् श्रेयास्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्ते शिष्यस्त्वां साधिमां त्वं प्रपन्नम्.
Very good. Thank you. Padmaji, you also wanted to recite. You want to recite? Please go ahead. Yeah, please.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.
कार्पण्यदोषोपहस्तस्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेताः यश्श्रेयः स्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधिमां त्वं प्रपन्नम्.
Very good. Thank you. Right. So this is very, very important verse, because here Arjun accepts Karpanya dosha pahata soha, that uh, okay, that I have been impacted by miserly weakness, right? Karpanya dosha pahata swabhava prishami tvam. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me decisively what is dharma, dharma sammuda cheta, yash shreyas, what is good for me. You please say, Sha nishitam. Huh? Uh, Again, nishitam means confidently tell me, what should I be doing. And then shishyasteha, that I am now your disciple and a soul surrendered onto me. Shadi, Shadi Mam, Shadimam means instruct me. Tvam prapannam, right? Prapannam means surrender, right? So this is very important verse because here Arjuna accepts that he is now bewildered, he's confused. And what does he do in this situation? He surrenders onto Krishna formally, you know, because till now there was a friendly conversation between friends, right? Between two relatives. But Arjuna realized that that conversation on a superficial level cannot uproot my confusion, right? So now Krishna might have told him that you better go to Vyasdev. But then Arjuna said, no, I don't want. You know me better than anyone else, right? And I want to surrender on to you, right? So Arjuna knew who Krishna was, right? So what we see, this is not only limited to Arjuna, this whole condition of bewilderment, of confusion, you know, of miserly weakness. By nature's own way, this whole system, Prabhupada very nicely and very elaborately explains this in his purport that, you know, the way this material world is, everyone at almost every point of time will face this situation of perplexity, right? When we don't know, when we don't know how to act, you know, and situations can be very demanding and very draining, both emotionally and physically, right? And we often realize that it is sucking our energy, right? So our acharyas, they compare these miseries, these material miseries, with a forest fire. See, most of the time, no one will ignite the forest fire. It is natural, it naturally comes, it naturally happens, right? Similarly, are these material miseries. They will come on their own. See, every time we are doing something, we are doing it just to be happy, right? But we often see that we will face the challenges in our life. We will face, you know, uh, what Corona is showing us, the harsh reality of this material world, the COVID-19 virus, right? How many people are suffering miserably, right? It is taking families away. It is, it's creating havoc. So this is just an example of what this material world is, in which we are trying to be happy. And we discussed elaborately, where should we aim our happiness, right? Now, whatever you do or not, you will face perplexities, you will face problems, miseries in life, right? Now, what should a person do when he is facing these challenging situations? Because they will come regardless of we wanting or not, right? At every step, at every point of time. And here we see example of Arjuna. What did Arjuna do? Arjuna just surrendered onto Krishna. Even before even before coming to the battlefield of Kurukshetra, we saw that how when Duryodhana, you know, uh, was so happy getting the Narayani Sena, Arjun was content having Krishna with him, even though he would not be lifting any weapons, right? And now here again we see he is formally surrendering onto Krishna, right? Because he realized that he's confused, he's weak. Similarly, all of us in our lives, we have to surrender onto Krishna. And how can we surrender onto Krishna? Through a spiritual master, through a guru. Evam parampara praptam. In 4.2, Krishna highlights evam parampara praptam, right? And also in the same chapter, Krishna highlights the process. Tad vidhi pranipatena, pariprashnena sevaya, updeshanti te jnanam, jnanina tattva darshana. Right? This should be the process that we should, approach a spiritual master with humility, right? We should serve the spiritual master, and then the spiritual master will reveal what we cannot see with these gross eyes, right? So basically here, Arjuna, having realized his condition, he formally surrenders, right? And then in the purport, Prabhupada also highlights the word Kripana and Brahmana. So what is this? What is it what you are seeing on this screen? This is some problem with the skin, right? Skin disease, right? Yeah. So what is Kripana? Kripana is something, you know, who is basically looking at a superficial aspect like a skin disease, right? It is in Brihad Aranakya Upanishad. It is the Kripana word is described as miserly person. A person for whom the mindset of he be able to protect his family or his family members protecting him is the main essence of life. Either he can save the family members or family members can save him, right? And they will basically live the life like cats and dogs, without any understanding of self-realization. They are no better than animals. While a Brahmana is very intelligent and utilizes this human body to solve the real problems of life, right? And the and Prabhupada also shares that who is the person, who is the man in material perplexity? No one who does not understand that there's so many problems of life. People, you won't believe, even in this crisis situation of pandemic, people are trying to make money out of this, and people don't see, that this world is dukhalayam ashashwatam, that this world is full of miseries. This is temporary world. You cannot be happy in this world, right? And I want to share one important verse from Mahabharata. Someone will like to recite this verse?
Yeah, I'll.
Mhm. Thank you. It does it.
Ahara nidra bhayamaidhunam cha samanyametat asubhin
Narayana.
asubhinnashanam
Mhm.
dharma hitesha madhiko visheshaha dharmanahinaha pasubhis samanaha.
Thank you very much, Shri.
Hindi.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah, I didn't put forward the English
Yeah.
transliteration of this. This is just in Sanskrit. So basically, this is a verse from Mahabharata. Someone will like to read the translation?
Yeah, I can put eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. These four activities are common to both human beings and animals. The difference is that a man can search after God, but an animal cannot. Therefore, a man without the urge for searching after God is no better than an animal.
Right. So we discussed in our previous slide that how Prabhupada highlights through the reference of that Upanishad that what a miserly person, who a miserly person is. Kripana, right? A Kripana is someone who just looks at the superficial aspect. Superficial aspect is what? The body, right? And while a Brahmana looks at the soul, right? Because Brahmana is intelligent. And here the same thing has been reiterated. Ahar, Nidra, Bha, Maithunecha. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Samanya Metat, Pashubhir Narana. These four things are common in human beings and animals. Samanya Metam, Pashubhir Narana. Dharma hi tesham adhiko vishesha. Now, dharma, spirituality is the only thing which differentiates the two. Dharmena hina, without dharma, pashubhi samana. That human being is as good as animal, right? Because even animals are involved in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Now you can say, yes, the difference is that human beings, the so-called animalistic human being, you know, they can go in Domino's and McDonald's and all these Pizza Huts and eat anything and everything they can, right? While poor animals, they can eat anything, everything which is even lying on the road, right? Whatever it comes to. They don't have a very, sophisticated uh, uh, environment, right? Uh, uh, they may not have as developed mannerism as a human tend to have. Sleeping, again, we can spend millions and billions of dollars, right? We see in the recent past that how, you know uh, one of the richest person of this world, right, uh, almost uh, having a problem in the married life because they are not able to control the senses, and which is what the Mahabharata, this verse says, that mating, right, they can mate, they can, that uh, the animals can mate anywhere with anyone, and same are human beings, right? if they if they don't abide by the scriptures, right? And defending, animals, poor animals, they defend by their claws, while human beings, they're making, you know costly weapons, the nuclear weapons, right? So the only difference is in sophistication, but they are as good as animals if they don't follow the scriptures, if they don't follow the spirituality, if they don't follow the Vedas, right? Now, what happens is, can someone tell me what is this?
Giant wheel, some mela.
Yes, it is a mela, right? It is a fun fair, right? So what happens that sometimes small children, you know, they are too much attracted uh, when they go with their parents to this fun fair, to this mela. They see so many things around and they just want to go and grab, right? Sometimes they will leave hand of their parents and run away, right? And only after some time they will realize, where am I, where have my parent gone? You would see in fun fair, right, in these melas, that there are a lot of announcement that this person has lost this, and you can find him here, this child is crying, and so this goes on. And similarly is our condition. We are unfortunately attracted, right, to the glittering illusion of false beauty of this material world. And unfortunately, we have forgotten that there is something beyond, there's something above and beyond this material, superficial happiness. Right? While who was Arjuna? Arjuna was a self-controlled person. He had everything in his life. He was very cultured, right? He was very powerful. He was strong. He could meditate so nicely. But then what happened to him? If that could happen to Arjuna, then are we going to be safe and secure? As did Arjun, so should we also try to surrender onto a spiritual master, because that is where we would realize, for example, uh, we have discussed this story in our introductory sessions, right? The story of six blind men and an elephant. Someone would like to share this story if someone still remembers that, or if someone knows, like.
I didn't attend the introductory session, but I can try.
Yes, please. Yes, Shanmukji.
I think they are not able to, when the six blind men are given the task of identifying various parts of elephant, so they don't have that, let's assume, like common knowledge of the knowledge of Atman or something. So they are identifying each of the part and as something what they can see, because they're with existing sense, like our senses are like, if we have improper senses,
Yes.
they are like blind man.
Yes.
So they will recognize with those improper senses, whatever they can see, they will just say that this is this part.
Right.
Yeah. So I think if you try to recognize with proper senses, probably we can realize that this is elephant.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
something like that.
Yes, actually, that is the case, So the elephant, the model of elephant was there, but these people, they were made blind, right? A cloth was wrapped around their eyes, and they could not understand what is it. Different people touching different part of the animal, the elephant. They thought, oh, it is a snake, it is a tree, wall, rope, fan, spear, while they could not see because their eyes were wrapped. But if a person who can see, who have eyes to see, can easily say that this is elephant. Similarly, what Shanmukji shared, that our these gross material eyes, these eyes cannot see the subtle spiritual things, even though they may be in front of us. I often give an example of a mango. This is a mango season. Everyone loves eating different kind of mangoes, right? I often say that if a person who is eating mango, if a person who is seeing rose flower, lotus flower, right? If by eating a mango, they cannot realize that there is something superior, you know, whose brain is working and guiding this nature. Otherwise, how from a seed, how is the seed, what is the taste of the seed of the mango? Is it sweet? No, right? And this seed is thrown in the ground. Now, if you want to even attempt eating that mud, right? It is not sweet. The seed has been thrown in the sand, and what comes is a mango tree. And on mango tree grows the mango. If someone challenges us, oh, you talk about God and all, show me, and then I will believe. These people, I said, they have the brain. It is not basically brain. They have stones in their brain, in their skull, basically. Because if they cannot realize the presence of God by seeing the material nature, we talk about nature. This is my nature, this is his nature. He's very arrogant, he's very proud, he's very humble. And here is the nature of Krishna. How beautiful this nature is, which is exploited by human beings. This nature is so good, and at every point of time, this nature is telling us that there is a brain behind this nature. This nature belongs to someone. Hmm? And Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, right, that this nature belongs to me, right? So, but who can help us to see this nature? Who can, with this gross material eyes, unfortunately, we cannot see the reality which is actually in front of our eyes. And we need a help of a spiritual master, right? So that is very important. Now, you see people like, who is this? Can anyone recognize her?
PT Usha.
PT Usha. What she used to do? Run.
Athlete.
Athlete, right? For running also, she need a guru. She need a teacher. For singing, you need a teacher. For playing, you need a teacher, right? For becoming an engineer and a doctor, you need a teacher. Krishna, through his example, taught us that approach a teacher. If for these gross things we need a teacher, do you think for spiritual things we would not need a teacher? We will need a teacher. And that is what Arjuna is basically highlighting this fact, right? Shanmukji, what was that verse we recited? Sarva Upanishadu Gauda.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sarvopanishadu gavo dhugda gopalanandanaha adho vatsa sudhir bhokta dugdham gitamrutam mahat.
So that Partha, thank you Shanmukji. So that Partha has become Vatsa for us. Vatsa means calf, right? And because of the calf, mother cow is giving the milk. And so because of Arjuna, who is representing calf, Krishna is churning the Vedas and giving this Gita for all of us, right? And Arjuna is showing the right process that we should surrender, right? So basically, Arjuna accepts Krishna as his guru. He was confused, right? We see that in verse number 4 that he's confused, he became disciple. And then in the 8th verse, what happens is he highlights that I cannot find any means to drive away this grief. No, nothing can help me. Whatever you give me from this whole world or from heavenly planets, nothing can drive away this grief, right? And then finally, in the 9th verse, he says that this 9th verse, someone will like to recite this in Sanskrit, this one?
I can try.
Yes, 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 please.
Sanjaya Uvacha Evam Uktva Ruchikesham Gudakesha Parantapa Nayotsya iti Govindam Uktva Tunsim Babavaha.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Ramesh. So this verse has been spoken by Sanjaya, right? Now here if you see, Krishna has been called as Rishikesha, right? And what is the meaning of Rishikesh?
The one who conquers Indriyas.
Indriyas, who is the controller, right, of senses. And Arjuna is called here as Gudakesha. What is Gudakesha?
Lethargic.
Yes, someone who has overcome the sleep, right?
Yeah.
Who's basically here it is said that Gudakesha has surrendered to Rishikesha. He has given the control of his senses, to Rishikesha. Parantapa, as I told you last time, this Parantapa word, is again referring to Arjuna. Parantapa means who has conquered all the enemies, right? So this Parantapa is again for Arjuna. Gudakesha and Parantapa, even though he's so powerful, he's surrendering on to Rishikesha, right? So how is he surrendering? He acknowledged he says that I am in my present condition, I cannot fight, right? And what I have highlighted here is although Arjuna is standing there with Krishna, he is suffering because his thought process was not aligned with that of Krishna's. And we also will suffer in this material world if we try to enjoy anything independent of Krishna. Right now, in the way we invited Harishet Prabhu in our, to summarize the first chapter, for we are running in parallel Hindi class, similar Hindi class, which my wife is taking, Madhvi Radhika, Dr. Mamta. So we invited another devotee to summarize that Hindi class. And that devotee shared one important thing, that all what we are gathering by reading, by understanding this Bhagavad Gita is information, right? And if we don't uh, implement the learnings of this Bhagavad Gita, by practicing those learnings, then they will be of no use to us. It will be like a dry scholarship and nothing more. There will not be any change of our heart. They will be just information without transformation. So what we have to do is, when we are discussing these things, when we are learning these things, we should start, practicing those things, right? And what will happen if we practice? We will gain realization. Because please try to understand that, you know, surrendering to Guru is not a superficial process. Guru is a person for sure, undoubtedly, right? We have to, approach a spiritual master humbly, serve that spiritual master, right? But a spiritual master is not going to be in present at all point of times, right? So this is also a principle. Along with the personality, it is also a principle that we should follow it. What, the instructions coming, we should try to follow. And when we follow these instructions coming from our bona fide spiritual master, then we will have realization. Some realizations will come from within, when we follow those things. And from that realizations will come revelation. Then the subtle nature of spiritual world will be revealed in front of us. So our request, every time and again, we are requesting that you should start chanting, right? And chanting actually, it is the process and the goal. Because Nama Chinta Mani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Abhinnatam Nama Namina. There is no difference between Krishna and his names, right? So Krishna is our goal, and Krishna is also our means. Through chanting the names of Krishna, we will achieve Krishna Prem, which is ultimately the goal of our spiritual life, right? So now I want to just bring one important point, that we want to compare the verse 1.46, in which again Sanjay says that Arjuna, you know is disheartened, he's confused, he puts aside his Gandiva. Now please try to understand that Arjuna would not put aside his Gandiva like this. Like, it is not like, we have kept our pen or our laptop aside. Gandiva was something which was very precious for Arjuna, right? uh, it was the most important thing, possession he had. And he was devastated, and he said that I cannot fight, I will not fight, basically. you know so let's see, what it is. And for he says that he puts aside his arrow, driven primarily by his emotions, right? Now these emotions were just looking at the material aspects, right? While our emotions can be uh, inclined towards the material things, or our same emotions can be used for spiritual things. For example, the electric current flowing in the wire can be used for heaters, right? When it is so too cold in north, we use heaters. So same electric current is used for heaters. Same electric current is used also in refrigerator for cooling, right? So the electric current is same, but it is how you use that. Similarly, everything in this life can be utilized either for spirituality for Krishna or for this material body. Now herein, Arjuna is using his emotions, primarily driven by his emotions for material things, right? His mood was, no matter what happens, I am not going to fight, right? But from the start of chapter 2, as soon as Krishna started speaking, you know, in verse second and third, it was just a pep talk like we shared. But nonetheless, his mood started transforming. His mood started mellowing down, and we then see that how he realized that it is his miserly weakness which is driving his thought process, and he rightfully realized that he should surrender onto Krishna, Prapanna. Hmm? And thereafter, when he says in 2.9 that with my current mindset, when he says that I'm not able to fight or I'm not going to fight, it is with my current mindset I'm not be able to fight. However, as a spiritual master, please remove all these doubts so that I can become clear from illusion and fight. So there's a difference between him saying the same thing in two different verses, right? So this is important for us to basically understanding that in 2.9 he's putting on hold to lift Gandiva until Krishna clarifies his doubt, and Krishna is not going to clarify the doubts for himself but for all of us, right? So then we come to verse number 2.10. So will someone like to recite this? Lavanya,
Yes,
Mataji, you will? Okay,
yes,
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
तमुवाच हृषीकेश प्रहसन्निव भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये विषीदन्तमिदं वचः.
Right. Thank you. I saw that even Shirisha ji unmuted. So Shirisha ji, will you like to read the translation?
Yes,
Yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. तमुवाच ऋषिकेशः रहसन्निव भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये विषीदन्तमिदं वचः.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Very nice. Someone will read the translation?
Yeah, I can read it.
Yeah. Tushar, please.
O descendant of Bharata, at that time Krishna, smiling in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna.
Right. So now there's an important thing here that till now, the talk was between intimate friends, right? Namely Rishikesh and Gudakesha, right? As friends, like they were almost on the same level, right? But here, Arjuna voluntarily surrenders as a student to Krishna, right? And Krishna was smiling because a friend has chosen to become a disciple, right? But as a Lord of all, he's always in the superior position, right? As the master of everyone, right? Yet he agrees. What does he agree? He agrees to be a friend. He agrees to be a son. And again, we can remember the verse which was spoken by Bhishma, uh, right? Adyo Narayana Poman, right? Uh, and in Mohan Mayan, mm, right? Uh, and then Gudas Charati Vrishnisu, that this person who is roaming amongst the Vrishnis, you may think him to be one of your relatives, but no. What is he's Adyo Narayan Apavan. He's Adi Narayan, right? Eshe Ve Bhagwan Sakshat. Adyo Narayan Apaman. Oyan Maya Lokam Gudas Charati Vrishnishu. So this here again, it is same thing. He can, he's independent. He's not like us. He's independent to take any position, any role. So he is a friend, but he always remains as Adi Narayan, right? So, but when someone formally surrenders onto him, then he will start speaking with gravity, as is required by a spiritual master, right? So now basically we'll start the main, uh, essence of Bhagavad Gita from verse number 11, you know, and we will see like from 11 to 30th, Krishna speaks about the Sankhya Yoga or Gyan Yoga, right? And thereafter Karma Kand, Nishkam, and so they, from basically the next verse, the main component of Gita will start, right? And we'll see that how Krishna will answer all the questions of Arjuna. He will like to clarify all the doubts of Arjuna through subsequent verses, right? Um so I just want to check if anyone has any question.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.
How to serve the spiritual master?
Yes. See, the most important process of serving the spiritual master is by following the instructions of the spiritual master, right? So a devotee of and disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu highlighted that of all the principles, of all the instructions of the spiritual master, the most important instruction of the spiritual master is the chanting name of Krishna in the form of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Whatever we do in our spiritual life, studying Bhagavad Gita, studying Bhagavatam, doing any physical services in temple like cleaning, distributing books, whatever it is, all these things are like 1% of a spiritual life, while 99% of our spiritual advancement depends on how nicely we can chant the names of Krishna. And that 1% thing also should improve this 99% of thing. So our studying of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, everything finally should help us in how we can nicely chant the names of Krishna. So that is the most important thing, following the instructions of a spiritual master. And of all the instructions of a spiritual master, chanting the names of Krishna is the most important.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Sumitji, some general question.
Right.
So I just have two books. One is our Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's book as it is.
Right.
And then there is one more book that was that Shankaracharya commentary from Advaita. So first chapter was given like is split into 47 in one and 46 in another.
Okay.
So I also see some places when we put the verses, sometimes I see that like say Eshamadde Kanchitam no Rajyam Bhogas Sukanicha. Ta ime avasthita yuddhe pranam stakta. Sometimes I see the connect due to connect or whatever. In some books it is arranged like 47.
Right.
Here I see it is 46.
Actually, when Krishna spoke this Bhagavad Gita, it was not chapter wise, right?
Yeah.
So we have to understand that these chapters have been put in place according to the this subject matter, discussed, right? So sometimes you may see that it's split, but primarily Srila Vyasdev has, what we see in front is put forward by Srila Vyasdev, right? And sometimes you will also see the names of the chapters, right? They may be different, right? So also depending on the it is like, in the Vaishnav Sampradayas also you will see different names. It is the mood of the Acharya also, and Acharya is not someone like you and me, but Acharya is someone, you know, uh, when we say, when Krishna will say Evam Parampara Praptam, that we can only approach him through the spiritual masters, through the Acharya. Acharya is someone who will help us to see, what we are not able to see. So an Acharya is primarily someone who is almost like a Trikalagya. He can see the past, present, and future, from a spiritual point of view, right? Not from a material perspective, right? And he see everything in connection of spirituality. So, so these acharyas, for they have put forward that to basically highlight um, you know, highlight the importance of that particular verse or the subject. Sometimes there may be little difference between, the two. Yeah. So as you highlighted, like Shripad Adi Shankaracharya, he primarily, his main focus, he's not, please try to understand, like Shripad Adi Shankaracharya is not a normal person. He's like an incarnation of Sadashiv, you know, he's an empowered personality. Like Shripad Ramanujacharya is not someone normal. He's a representative of Adi Sheshnag, right? Madhvacharya is representative of Vayu, right? Sriman Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. So these personalities, they have come for at a particular point of time, you know, to highlight a particular point because of a particular reason, right? To bring everyone closer to spirituality, right? So Adi Shankaracharya put forward the Advaita philosophy, right? Why Madhvacharya, Ramanacharya, put Vishishta Advaita, right? And then Madhvacharya Dvaita philosophy, right? And then Sriman Mahaprabhu, Achinta Abheda Bheda Tat, right? He put like oneness as well as the difference between the two. What is between the two? The soul and the super soul, right? Brahma and Parabrahma. So, because of a certain time and circumstances, this is done by acharyas. Okay. Does this answer your question, Shanmukhji?
Yeah, yeah. Why I asked is some verses, if we read in certain sequence,
Yes.
it moves. Yeah, I mean, there is no difference as such in terms of all the verses are there as it is. But when
Yes.
we connect it, like when we connect the last line of one verse and the next line of the next line of the next verse, then we see that it is more meaningful than
Yes.
breaking. Sometimes I just get confused, so that's why I asked.
I also used to get confused, I tell you, and it is common, right? Because we always need a help, and which is why we are, discussing this in this platform, right? Otherwise, we all have Bhagavad Gita, but even though we all have it, it sometimes becomes so difficult. And I have so many, and I read so many books,
Yeah.
and take listen and hear so many classes, lectures on these particular subject matter, and then present this to all of you. Yeah. So yes, thank you. Any other question or comment or any suggestion you have? Anyone? Okay, so if not, it's 5:30. We will just, chant the Hare Krishna month. What I also want to request you, like all of you must be chanting one round of the mantra. Before chanting that mantra, please chant this. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. So this is basically the Panchatattva mantra. Uh, basically, this is, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityanand Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit and Srivas Acharya. So, this is basically taking mercy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates that we can chant the Hare Krishna Mahamant, nicely and without any offenses, right? So, all of you can chant this mantra. And we will just chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra 5 times in the interest of time, and then we'll end the session. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So Hare Krishna all of you, thanks for attending. Thank you. Hare Krishna.